Good evening, and it's Wednesday evening. It's about 10 minutes after 7 Central Time, and this is Keto Confab, a support group for individuals who are trying to live the keto lifestyle, especially with the teachings of Dr. Annette Bosworth. And so it's our regular Wednesday night meeting. And we have a new person with us, and I'm going to let Kiwanis introduce herself and tell us how long she's been doing keto and how she found Dr. Boz and, stuff about her, and then we'll get started with the rest of the meeting.
Hello, my name is Kiwanis. I've been doing keto for over 2 years. I have followed the Dr. Boz Keto Continuum, and I found her through watching a lot of Dr. Fong's videos, and I use her videos, her notes, her whatever she has as a baseline for me and to help educate others as well as my doctor. I have right now I'm on the continuum wherein it's 2 meals a day. When I say 2 meals, it's bulletproof coffee and something to eat in the afternoon. I only mentioned 2 meals because the bulletproof coffee has carbs in it, so technically that's not a fast. The problems that I am having is I go and I get blood I go and get blood work, and my doctor says, oh, your cholesterols are just way too high. You should have been on statins. So I've been on this quest of, okay, how do I gather the information and explain to her that it's going to be that way for a little while, and let me show you how and why. So I am gathering information and trying to show her that it's going to be high, and making sure that I have the right tests. One of the issues that I have is at night sleep. And some of it is ketones, and I have come to the conclusion a lot of it is the caffeine, too much caffeine. So it's keeping me up or at night and waking me up in the middle of the night. Therefore, I'm not having enough sleep. And when I don't have enough sleep, it affects my glucose numbers in the morning. It also affects them during the day. I'm in the process of getting off of all of my diabetes medicine, working on the blood pressure. And my goal is to be off all medicine before I retire so I don't have a medical bill. And the other thing is to make sure I'm around and not like my mother and my father, who have gone through the struggle of diabetes, cancer, and this surgery and that surgery. I do not want to have that type of burden on my kids. And that's my story.
Wow. Good job.
Wow. Thanks, Kiwanis. Yeah, so you've been doing Dr. Boz for about 2 years, and you're at 2 meals a day with the coffee and everything. Are you staying 20 carbs or less?
I increase my carbs primarily because I was hungry, and I'm like, if I'm hungry towards or in between 7 and 6 o'clock, then I need to either one increase the carbs a little bit, or either I need to eat 3 times a day. I am a stickler on numbers, in the sense when I say numbers, I track things. I know what types of foods are going to make me bloated. I know what types of foods increase my insulin. And when I say increase carbs,
Oh, you unfortunately muted yourself.
stuff is whipping with her HB, the chocolate. I'm using like a half a teaspoon of the cocoa along with the avocado.
Okay.
Avocado, I wasn't able to eat without, I would rather by itself. But me putting it in the ice cream, I'm like, I'm good with it. I'm okay. So I'm now getting avocado. So that is increasing my carbs. I don't normally have that at all. So that's what I'm saying when I say increasing carbs. It's
Oh,
all keto based carbs, no of the processed stuff, because as soon as I eat processed stuff, I get bloated and then I regret it. I've been through the the shenanigans on that, and it's
oh yeah.
emotional. So I don't want the emotional downside. I've come to the conclusion that if you don't want it, don't go down the road. So I make sure that I start looking at, okay, I need to work on making sure I have B before I get home. That would stop the cravings in the afternoons. And then look at, what am I doing? Really focus on what am I doing at certain times of the day. Like for instance, I work with coworkers, they're all carbs.
Mm,
Donuts in the morning, donuts in the afternoon. So I know, okay, if they're going to do that, I need to drink some BHB, and I'm gonna throw some coffee in there. And I'm like, this is my donut. It's chocolate. It's good. So I have started processing what am I doing and looking at what I'm doing.
Have you tried increasing your fat intake toward the afternoon? I know that for me, when I'm struggling really bad toward the evening, what I realize is I've eaten plenty of my proteins, but I have been, and I'm like you, but I'm trying to keep my carbs at 20 or less. But I have usually found when I'm really hungry in the evening, I have definitely not had the right amount of good fats by the end of that day. And that's what I'm needing to get. And usually once I have that, and it doesn't take a whole lot, I can have just a little bit of fats and man, boom, I am really no longer hungry.
well, I think that's why she's added the avocado,
The
because
other,
avocado is a good fat.
well, the other reason is I have to cook for kids and
Mm,
my husband, and they're not on the same thing as I am. So I found out that what I can do is I can take the bacon and cut it up in little small pieces, and that's my little snack in the afternoon if I want something, and it's soaked in fat, and oh wow, that tastes really, really good. So I'm starting to do that now. And in the
mhm.
morning, I'm making sure that the Bulletproof coffee has MCT, the C8 and C6 in there. And if I'm a little tad bit wanting a little something, the MCT, and then I'll throw in an extra I'm sorry, BHB and a little MCT oil with the C8, C6 and 6 C8, and that'll get me through the rough patches. So I'm learning what works.
Yeah, that's the thing with all of us. We have to figure out our own bodies because we are all very unique. And the other thing, like you said, our home situations are very unique. Um, I have a bunch of food sensitivities. So even though my husband, he's the man there in the corner, um, he's also keto. And we have one of our daughters that lives with us who is keto, but the other daughter is not keto. And she, uh, her eating chips, her eating sugary cereal, her having, those fruit bars and fruit snacks and peanut butter cups. Just, I mean, I'm horribly tempted. My husband isn't, but I'm horribly tempted. And it's hard for me, but she gets to live her life. She's 20, so she gets to live her life. Um, so yeah, and working with your doctor, and in fact, before we came on, Scott and I were talking about what topic we might want to have for this evening, and he says, why don't we talk about how to talk to your doctor, how to help your doctor learn. And so your story, Kiwanis, gives us a good place to start, because I think I know Melody has had conversations about cholesterol and her concerns about cholesterol. And my doctor was concerned about my cholesterol because it was 289, but I had only been keto for like 5 months when that reading had been taken. And I'm like, well, I'm not worried about it. And she's like, oh, and so, okay, now Scott's disappeared. And I was going to make him lead the topic tonight. And so now he's disappeared. So, you know, by listening to a lot of the YouTube videos from Dr. Jung, and I don't know if you listen to Dr. Barry or Dr. Berg, and then there's Dr. Cywes, and then there's Dr. Jamnadas. Is that right, Patricia? Do you know how to say his name?
Dr. Cywes down in Florida.
Dr.
And
Cywes.
then there's Dr. Pradip Jamnadas.
Yeah, Jamnadas. Yeah, he's an Indian cardiologist, and you know, they all say the same thing. The thing about cholesterol that you really have to hone in on is the triglycerides. If the triglycerides are the ones that are really high and crazy, then you should be concerned about your heart. But the LDL and the HDL and stuff, you know, those are fine. And even if they're a little high, they're fine. And the other thing, I watched a video. It's about, it was called Living Well into Your 90s. And they were talking about, they interviewed a bunch of people who were 90 plus and didn't have Alzheimer's and weren't disabled and stuff. They were still driving and everything, and they were trying to figure out how they were living well into their 90s when so many other people are just decrepit and everything. And one of the things they found is many of them have higher blood pressure than most doctors like, and higher cholesterol than most doctors like, and that there is protection to a degree with higher cholesterol and higher blood pressure, both from heart attacks, stroke, and Alzheimer's. And so I'm like, yeah, see, get off my back, lady, about my high cholesterol or my higher blood pressure. Oh, and the other thing that surprised me is that seniors that are a little overweight, I mean, not massively obese, 400 pounds overweight, but a little overweight actually do better than the ones that are really skinny. The ones that are really skinny are more prone to strokes and heart attacks and things like that. And I'm like, really? So what for getting all terrible skinny, you know? I'll be a little fat. But so anyway, I don't want to monopolize the conversation. Scott, do you want to talk a little bit about talking to your doctor about cholesterol and everything like that?
Well, I can talk a little bit about it, but I mean, don't have any personal experience with it. But you know, the thing is, well, come on, you know, like you mentioned, yeah, the doctors tend to get concerned when they see what they consider high cholesterol numbers, and you know, the thing is, I mean, unfortunately, doctors have a one-size-fits-all view of all of these numbers, whether it's cholesterol, blood pressure, blood glucose, BMI, I mean, you name it. You know, the other thing to remember, you know, is that the numbers that are considered, you know, normal or healthy have actually changed over the years, and I don't necessarily think they've gone in a good direction necessarily. And so, you know, that yeah, if they see the numbers that they think are high, well then yeah, they're concerned, you know, in terms of cholesterol. And you know, they also look at the LDLs and the HDLs as well, you know, and and the LDL is the low density lipoprotein, and the HDL is the high density lipoprotein. And so the LDL is considered the quote bad cholesterol, and the HDL is considered the good cholesterol. And so, and I think they still follow that convention. So, but yeah, it's good if you've got a good video to have them watch. That's good, because then maybe they'll get some explanation for why at least temporarily you're not really going to be concerned about cholesterol necessarily. The other thing we have to remember is a medical doctor is unfortunately very concerned. All medical doctors are very concerned about being sued, very concerned about liability and all that. And because our society, unfortunately, has become very hyper litigious, especially when it comes to anything medical. And so, so you've got to keep in mind that your doctor is, kind of under the microscope, and they're legally they're liable for whatever happens to you. And so it's good. Sometimes I think a person just has to shop around to find a doctor that's willing to be educated on this on keto. But yeah, if you have a good video, having a good video, I think to have to look at this, that's good. If you've got a copy of Dr. Boz's book, that's good as well. There are some doctors that are just not open to quote unquote being educated. So sometimes people have to shop around.
Yeah, I think here in our small town, when I showed up at my doctor's office after not seeing her for nearly a year, and I had at that point lost 80 pounds when I showed up at her office, and my blood pressure was 50 points lower than the last time she saw me, and everything. She was like, and she's like, what did you do? And I said, I'm not going to tell you because I don't really think you're interested. And she's like, no, I'm interested. I said, no, let's do the exam. Let's talk about whatever. And so we did the exam, and she's like, come on, what did you do? And I said, I went keto. And I said, if you really seriously think that what I've been able to do for myself over the last 5 months, because I had only been keto 5 months then, but it had been 10 months since I last saw her. I said, then you need to read this book. And I gave her Dr. Boz's book. But then after that, I saw her and she said, I haven't had a chance to read the book, and I started thinking, I'm like, I think a lot of medical doctors are just terribly busy. I mean, they're humans just like you and I. They have families, they have animals that need to be taken to the vet, and cars that need to be left at the shop, and computers that break down at home. And they have this high pressure job, so they can't just sit at work in a slow minute reading a book, Maybe what needs to happen is somebody needs to put together a 1-page document that makes statements about how keto changes your blood chemistry, and where these higher cholesterols are not necessarily dangerous, because cholesterol is actually the thing in our blood that goes to repair things, to rebuild stuff. So like after you've had pneumonia or something, you need cholesterol to fix whatever tissues in your lungs and stuff that have been damaged by all the coughing and the bacterial blah, blah, blah and stuff. Maybe we need a cheat sheet, with references to doctors and a list of videos they could go and watch, and I mean, they should be interested in the longer videos that are an hour, 2 hours long with all the data and the slides on the screen and, the clinical studies and stuff. But really, I think doctors probably would prefer something shorter, and I don't know. I haven't had the time to put something like that together, but I'm going to have to, because I'm going to have to go back and see my own doctor. And I'm pretty sure my cholesterol's higher than what she'd want. I mean, at one point it was 289. The last time I tested it, it was 190 something. And Kiwanis, do you have the Flora 6 monitor, the glucose and ketone monitor? Do you have that one?
Yes, I have that one with both of the strips and the uric acid.
Okay, because they have the cholesterol strips now for that monitor, and they're expensive. I think it's $36 for 10 of them, but I've just been testing once a week or once every 2 weeks just to see what my cholesterol's doing, and it really, really does depend on what I've eaten in the last 24 hours, how that strip comes out. And so, and that's the other thing. I mean, so what? I had a 189 cholesterol one time, but it was probably whatever I ate in the 48 hours before I got there. And maybe it was a off day for me. Maybe I had chocolate or a donut or something, maybe I went crazy and had some crackers, but yeah, it's very frustrating to depend on a professional who thinks you're crazy, but that you're doing the right thing for your body, and that's where I am. I mean, I feel better, I look better, I am better, and I'm no longer borderline diabetic like I was before, and my blood pressure is better and everything, and I've lost all this weight, need to lose more. But then they're saying, no, you need a statin drug. And I don't do well with medication. I have been put into a coma before with taking a medication, a new medication. 8 days in, I was in a coma from it. And I break out the hives to tons of stuff. And what doesn't give me hives makes my heart race or gives me horrible headaches or muscle aches and pains. So medication is not my friend, and I need to stay away from it. And so, yeah. Okay, Renee.
I think I saw a video by Dr. Berry, and I could be remembering wrong, but I think it was Dr. Berry who put it out about the dangers of the statin drugs. And he actually had a link, I think, he had it up on the screen for information you could write down and give to your doctor and say, so you want me to go on a statin? Well, let me show you. These are all of the negatives of going on a statin versus this is the little tiny bit of change that you want me to get from going on the statin. And I'm pretty sure that these negatives far outweigh the positive I'm going to get from this medication. And I wish I could remember, but I think it was
Dr. Berry, and I'll search for it to try and link it to this video when I post this video tonight. But yeah, I think it was Dr. Berry. And Renee, you bring up a very good point. They want us to get the statins, but the statistics don't show that even if you take the statins and don't have terrible side effects or anything, you don't really get that much benefit from them. It doesn't change your risk of heart attack or stroke that much. And
It's only a very, very small margin. It's only like a 2 to 5% reduction in your chance.
right. And so, and you're risking your liver and your kidneys because statins are very rough on livers and kidneys. And even when you're not a person who's wretchedly sensitive to medications like me, is it worth the risk to your kidneys and your liver to take this drug to get 2% improvement? You know, I don't know.
I'm really blessed in that the doctors that I've had to deal with, I mean, first off, I've always kind of pre-sought out doctors that were more holistic minded, that had the idea, that would go along with the idea that, and I tell them up front, look, I am a non-medical, and not that I don't love doctors, I think you all are great, but I don't take medications. I'm real sensitive to most medications. So the bare minimums that you might give the average person probably would knock me on my butt, you know, so I won't your statistics to begin with. So I prefer to have a very traditional non-medicated lifestyle, and I do things to try and keep myself healthy in that respect. And, you know, the main thing that this doctor that I have right now, I love her to death because she's so cool. Because I had said, well, you know, I don't want to do this test or that test, because she'd say, well, you know, it's time that you should have this test, or you should be on this medication. And I said, well, I know that, you know, I've had this talk, but just kind of a reiteration. That's not really kind of my path that I like to do. And I prefer to do my Chinese medicine. And right now that works really good for me, and blah, blah, blah. And she goes, that's fine. I just have to mark in your file that I did tell you about it and that you've refused it. Because as long as I do that, you're covered and I'm covered from any kind of negative fallback if a problem does come up. She says, I just want to make sure that you're healthy. She goes, and really, truly, your numbers are looking good. And as long as things continue to stay at a good, even keel, she goes, I'm not going to stress about it. And I was like, oh my God, I love you.
So Patricia, were you wanting to say something?
Kiwanis, thank you so much for coming tonight. I'm really proud of you. Are you telling me that you are a diabetic that is coming off your medicine?
I was a diabetic. You are correct, and I have come off my medicine.
Wonderful. Wonderful. That's, you know, they used to say that was never possible.
Mm-hmm.
But I did want to tell you this. When I went to the doctor the last time, he said, you know, your LDL is pretty high. He said, we need to get you on a statin, I think. I said, doctor, I don't think I want to do a statin. I said, I'm on a special diet, and I think that my triglycerides are low enough for you to see that I don't really have a problem in that area. And what I'd like to do is ask for a CAC exam, which is coronary artery calcium test. And he said, well, you know, it is true. He said, that's another way for me to know if you have a problem with your arteries. And so he says, you know, it's not free. He said, but he said, if you want to, I'll approve it. And so I paid $100. It's a 2-minute ultrasound test. I hardly even had to open up my shirt at all to do it. And I ended up with a score of 0, which means I have no congestion in my arteries at all. So I don't know if that's an option for you, but I definitely recommend that CAC exam. Now, my brother took the exam. He got a 2, which is, they say anything under 500 is great. It only starts to be a concern if it's over 500. But I heard recently there's some people that are in the thousands with their CAC exam. But that's one option that you can do besides all this about throwing books at them and throw them, videos at them, because see, a lot of these, I've heard recently, some of these doctors are very antagonistic to YouTube videos. They say, don't try to tell me how to run my business. You know, they don't like that kind of stuff. So,
Yeah.
but anyway, I want to commend you for, sounds like you've been straight on. I mean, you and I were evidently in the same course way back in the spring of 2020. And sounds like you've been pretty straight on since then. And could I ask you, could you sort of say, are you in your 40s or your 50s?
I'm in my 50s. I've done the insulin pump wherein you stick the needle on the side. So I know some of the pockets of fat is because I had the insulin pump. I was taking insulin. I had it during the pregnancies, and from there, just listening, doing what the doctors were telling me, I did what they suggested, but they never told me why. And it wasn't until I asked the question why that I understood that the medicines weren't actually really helping me. They were just putting a Band-Aid on an issue that was never corrected.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it sounds like you're doing great. Keep
Mm-hmm.
on doing what you do. When are you going to go see the doctor?
They want more blood work this week, and then the end of the month, she wants to actually talk with me. And I'm like, yeah, I want to come and do the blood work, but I hadn't had real good sleep. So I know whatever you're going to test and look for is going to be off and skewed. So I'm like, okay, I'll wait until later in the week and I'll get you your blood work. I don't have a problem doing what you've asked. It's just, I know my body. I know that if I don't have enough sleep, what you're looking for is going to be skewed. And if
Yeah.
I am fasting, it's going to be skewed. So
Yeah.
what are we really talking about here?
Yeah.
You know, you might
Yeah.
also, Kiwanis, you might even start looking into, and I probably say this too much on our little channel here, so I apologize for those who are here all the time. You might look into finding a local acupuncturist in your area, because a lot of times they can go in and help balance the channel that helps control a lot of your bodily functions. That's do for a living, is I'm an acupuncturist, and so I work with people on trying to get the body back into a state of balance. And so, you know, sometimes what I have been seeing is that a lot of times we're doing everything we're supposed to do individually, like Patricia, you're eating right, and Elizabeth, you're eating right, and Scott, you're eating right, and then we all might still have that same little whatever that's going on. It's like, okay, why won't this come into alignment with everything else? What am I missing here? Sometimes you just have to balance the channel itself to get the body to figure out how to get itself back into that state of balance for it to start working correct. Just food for thought.
So then the other thing, Kiwanis, now you said you felt that it was caffeine causing the issue. So have you switched to decaf coffee to make your bulletproof coffee?
Yes, I started that yesterday to somewhat test to see what was going on, and
Okay.
that was my bulletproof coffee was in that yesterday, and then I was like, okay, no more caffeine, but I know that if I don't have some caffeine, I'll start having headaches, because you can't just completely drop caffeine.
Cold turkey, yeah.
Yeah, I can't do it cold turkey. So I knew that I needed to find some more decaf coffee. So I ordered some more decaf coffee, and in place of having coffee again during lunch, I just did the BHB with some cream, heavy whipping cream, and ice as a
Oh, that sounds
substitute.
good.
So
You know, when I was easing off of caffeine, Kiwanis, what I did, because I had to go off caffeine for something, I would do like my regular cup of coffee, and then my next cup of coffee, it was half decaf. You know, when you're mixing, it was half decaf and half regular. And I just lowering the amount of actual caffeinated coffee in with my decaf as I went along. And I didn't get the headaches near as bad. In fact, I don't think I had any.
Yeah. Kiwanis, have you listened to any of the YouTube videos from Matthew Walker?
I have not from Matthew Walker, but I've done a lot of the circuits of the individuals. I'm sort of particular about
Okay.
who I listen to.
Matthew
because,
Walker is
mhm.
not a keto person. He's a sleep guy.
Okay.
And he's a British dude and he's kind of cute. Um, and I've listened to a number of his talks on sleep, and there's one particular talk where he talks about how to improve your sleep. And I actually ended up buying his book called Why We Sleep. And it's a good book. I mean, I know from the brains class. Have you taken the brains class, Kiwanis, with Dr.
No,
Boz?
I have not. I'm trying to find the next time she has it to partner up with someone so I can actually pay for the class.
Yeah, because Scott and I took it when it first came out. We joined up with like 10 other people and took it, and she talks a lot about the importance of sleep. And you are absolutely right, knowing that your blood work is going to be worse when you are not sleeping well than when you are sleeping well. And what I'll do when I put this up on my YouTube channel, I will link Dr. Walker's book and a couple of his videos about improving your sleep. One of the things he says is important is to definitely have no caffeine within 14 hours of when you want to go to bed. Yes, Patricia. Yeah, 14 hours, because caffeine can affect you
Some
up
people
to
aren't
14
even
hours.
awake for 14 hours.
I know, but he says 14 hours really. He says you can skim it down to 12, but 14 hours. And the other thing he says is to be sure, even if you're not going to stay awake, but to get up in the morning with the morning sunlight and let the morning sunlight hit your eyeballs. You don't have to stare into the sun and blind yourself, but you just have to get morning light, because it's part of the way the pineal gland works in setting our sleep cycle is getting morning sunlight. Noontime sunlight, afternoon and evening sunlight is very different than morning sunlight. And so exposing your skin and your eyes, especially, to morning sunlight is important. So, you know, anyway, he has a few other things you can do. I forget what they are. It's been a year and a half since I read his book, and was doing all of his videos on YouTube. But it's an idea. And Kiwanis, I commend you for you had an insulin pump and you're off all medication. You are amazing. Woo! I mean, big applause, man, because that's something they say can't happen. And it can. It can happen.
Hey, you rock, Juanis.
Yeah. And so I agree with you, waiting until you can figure out your sleep issues to go in and get your blood work done. And then maybe, like Patricia has said, maybe what you need to do with your doctor is to see if she's willing to order the CAC test. I mean, if you're able to financially afford it, and everything, it might be the way you need to go. And you've been keto long enough, I would think that your test would come out below 500. I haven't had the test done myself because I've only been keto for a year and a little bit, and I wanted to wait longer. So anyway, yeah.
I think those are all great ideas. I do have to say I'm off the diabetic medicine. I am still struggling with blood pressure, but I think that will come into play once I balance the weight, and I'm having a problem with retention of fluid, in the sense of this water weight. Once I get back down, I think that will come into play, and that will resolve itself. I just need to have stable and consistent levels, and I'm
Mhm.
doing more monitoring and more writing down, so that when I go and talk with her, she has statistics, and you cannot deny statistics.
Mhm. Yeah. That's very important, Kiwanis. You're right there. Having numbers, you can't go into your doctor and say, "Oh, I feel good," and I'm fine and stuff. But if you can show them your blood sugars, your ketones, what your blood pressure's been doing, and everything, then that will help. Um, and um, I I purchased this little fitness watch thing on Amazon for like $37, and it watches my heart rate because my doctor was like, your heart rate's too low. We probably need to put you on a medication for low heart rate. And I'm like, no medication. Um, and so I bought this to watch my heart rate because it takes my heart rate every 5 minutes or something or another. And my heart rate's only low when I'm sleeping. The rest of the time it sits around 60. But as soon as I am up and doing anything, it's in the 80s and the 90s. And I think it has good variability. Um, but she was all concerned about it. But now I have data to show her. And this also does my blood pressure. It monitors my sleep, how quickly I get to sleep, how deeply I sleep, if I'm in REM sleep or light sleep. And it wasn't that much money. It did take me a little bit to figure out how to get the stupid app to sync with the stupid phone, I mean with the watch, and how to get it to download the information and all of that. But I'm kind of tech stupid. So that's not surprising. I don't think it should be blamed on the app or anything. But you're right, having data is good. And you know if you can put off your blood work for a couple of weeks or something, I don't think you're going to die if you put it off for a couple of weeks and look into improving your sleep. And like I said, I'll link uh, Dr. Walker's some videos of him on this video when I put it up. Uh, if you go to YouTube, just put Keto Confab in, and the recordings of our meetings should come up easily. If they don't, my YouTube channel is Health Ampersand Life Center. And that you can find it that way, but typically it comes right up on a search when you put Keto Confab in. And I will put the link to this meeting on the Keto Confab Facebook page and also Dr. Boz's page. So you'll be able to get the links. Now about blood pressure, I think Dr. Cywes was the one that had a really good one about blood pressure. And Pradip had a good one too. I think I'll try and link one or both of those to this video. Yes, Renee?
I just was going to show a couple of different videos that she can order off of Amazon that will give her some exercise that she can do at home that will help with the blood pressure. This one, let's see if I can get it come onto the camera. It's not going to do it. Okay.
Oh, it's Qigong. Oh,
yeah,
Qigong.
It's Qigong, but it's by this particular man right here.
What's the name?
Miss Ken Cohen.
Oh,
And-
Ken Cohen, yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, he is like one of the top people to go to. And then the other one is called Simply Type B.
Mhm.
Back here. It's also a really good one. And both of these you can find on Amazon or on the internet. But probably the top one that will really help start control, because it helps you control breath. Breath in turn also helps control blood pressure levels because of our
Mhm.
levels, is this one right here. And it's by Ken Cohen. And it's
I believe
Qigong.
I've seen Ken Cohen on YouTube and has some YouTube videos
Mhm.
there too. So,
He
you know,
does.
just plug in Qigong and Ken Cohen. And yeah, I use Qigong not every day, most days for myself. And so that's valuable. There's lots of things you can do for yourself. You don't have to run to a statin or another blood pressure pill. And so, Patricia, were you going to say something?
Not really. I do water walking 3 times a week, and I do a sauna after that. I think, do you already have an exercise program, Kiwanis?
Right now for work, we're doing steps, and my goal is, I didn't do it today, I'll be honest, 2-mile walk a day. I my bike finally got fixed. My NotoTrack bike finally got fixed, so I'll be back riding the bikes 3 times a week. And then I try to do something with the kids when we go for a bike ride to get them into exercise.
Wow.
And I try to do a little bit of walking / jogging. So I'll have them ride their bikes and I'll walk and jog a little bit to get myself back up to acclimation. But
Yeah, I
outside
don't
of
think
that,
exercise is your problem. I think you're doing great.
Yeah, I think you're doing good too. But for me, my blood pressure does creep up and up when I'm not exercising. Like I live in North Dakota, and we are very cold for 5 months of the year. It's too cold to really be out and walking. And I live in a teeny tiny town of 1,200 people. We don't have a gym. We don't have a walking place. So during the cold months of the year, I don't go out and walk, and my blood pressure creeps up and up. And so keeping fit, doing something physical is important. And so I think it's great you have a bike and you can get out there with the kids and get them moving, because it's important. We as parents teach our children to move. I didn't teach my children to move because I was a lazy lump. And well, I mean, at 340 pounds, I definitely was a lazy lump, you know. And so, but that's good. You know, regular exercise helps the blood pressure, and water, a little bit of salt, you know, the Redmond salt, like Dr. Boz teaches, and everything also important. And sleep. Sleep is very important for blood pressure. So I see it's about 8 o'clock. I see that Renee's put the link for the has put the information for those Qigong videos on Amazon up. That's good. Oh, we lost Kiwanis. And so anything else anybody wants to talk about tonight?
I wanted to report that my granddaughter had a spring break up in Virginia. So we took her to Washington, D.C. to the zoo, and then to Mount Vernon, which is George Washington's place.
Mhm.
And that trip to the zoo, we had to ride the subway and lots of walking. My husband's Fitbit said that we walked 14,500 steps.
Wow.
Tell you, when I finally got into bed that night, I was dying. I was dying. But anyway, I did it. A good thing the hotel had a pool, so we were able to stretch the ligaments a little bit before we went to bed. But it was a good trip. I think the granddaughter enjoyed it quite a bit. But
well, you were back in my old stomping grounds because Washington, D.C. was where I was born and raised. And we used to go to the zoo every Saturday afternoon, you know?
it's free, so there you go.
Yeah. Or we'd go down to the mall and go to the monuments or into any of the museums and stuff. So that's my old stomping ground and everything. But yeah. So anything else anyone wants to talk about, ask about, complain about? Boy, Scott, it's getting dark up there.
Yes,
I
it is.
just want to
Well,
say one more thing.
it's dark on the screen, but it's not really dark here yet.
I have continued with my 36-hour fast.
Oh, good. Oh, we didn't
Um,
talk. Go ahead, Patricia.
So my thing right now is I do, I'm hungry during that middle day there. I am hungry, and what I started to do is I drink the salt water. I drink the salt water. That helps me. But it's a psychological thing, it's a mental thing. And what I've done is I put on music. I put on music just to get my attention on something else. And I think it helps a little bit.
Oh,
so
that's good.
I think it's an attitude thing a lot of times.
Distraction is good. Yeah, distracting me from food is a good idea. We all need to say a big hooray, hooray for Melody because she completed a 44-hour fast this week. Yes, yes, go Melody. I know it's a struggle for Melody, especially because she is a vegetarian, so she doesn't get all of the fats that we do. It's been a huge struggle for her, but yes, yes. So very good for her. And then I don't know if all of you put up the chat, but on the chat, she asked about intermittent diarrhea and stuff. And Kiwanis, you're right. Chia seeds help plug it up. So thankfully, I don't typically have diarrhea, so I haven't had to deal with it. And if I have had diarrhea, I know I was the one who caused it because I had, I've had like yogurt or something that had sugar in it or something, because too many milk products or sugar will cause me to get loose stools. So I do it to myself. But if that's not your problem, Melody, then yeah.
One more thing I wanted to report. This something might tickle you a little bit. So my husband read Keto Continuum, and he says, I want to read that other book. So I said, well, I've got the Kindle version of Any Way You Can read that. So he starts talking about Grandpa Rose.
Grandpa
I said, Grandpa Rose? Who's that? He said, Dr. Bosworth's father. I said, his name is Mr. Bosworth.
Yeah.
I can't remember what his first name was, but he calls him Grandpa Rose.
Yeah, do you think his name was Henry?
I don't know. I thought it was cute. That's why I mentioned it.
Yes, it is adorable. It's adorable. Grandpa Rose. Well, I mean, there was a boy named Sue. So Johnny Cash says. But what do we know? All right, everybody. I'm going to say it's a little after 8, and I'm going to close out this meeting. And hopefully we'll be good through the rest of our blizzard here, but so far so good. We're more than 24 hours in, only another 36 to go. And everybody have a good week, and we'll see you next Wednesday. And thanks so much for coming, Kiwanis. You really added to the show tonight. And I'm sure other people a lot of people watch this on replay. They will learn a lot from you, and they'll be applauding you and Melody for a 44-hour fast.
Congratulations to you both. You are doing fantastic, ladies.
And the replay should be up in a couple of hours because I have to let it download and then format it and all that. And I will put links to Dr. Cywes and Dr. Pradip's videos on blood pressure, and Dr. Walker's videos on sleep, and that one on cholesterol from Dr. Berry in the links for it. Okay, everybody, have a good night.